Good evening from the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin. We are two Vol Bros who are actually bros, and I said the intro correct. How about that? As a first time for everything. What an evening! No, forget that. What a day to be a Vol fan. Four major athletic teams in action today. Not to discredit men's tennis or anybody else if they were playing, but there are four major team sports in action today: men's basketball, women's basketball, softball, and baseball all played today. Softball played two games, went 2-0. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going straight to the player of the day, not player of the game. We always talk about a player of the game, but since there are 4 or 5 games today, up in which the Vols went 4-1, I'm going straight to the player of the day. It's not Kelly Harper because she's a coach anyway. It is not Blake Burke, although he could deserve it. It's also not Kiki Malloy, although she could deserve it. No. The player of the day today is none other than Carlin Pickens. Holy cow. She threw a perfect game today in game 1 for the Lady Vols. Listen, I don't care who you are. A perfect game against Appalachian State, a Division I college softball team. That's phenomenal. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. Congratulations to Carlin on an amazing outing today. Super exciting for her. Super exciting for the Lady Vols, who are just tearing it up right now. What a day for Vol sports. And we've already got some comments coming in. Elijah said, "Yep, absolutely. It's incredible. Absolutely." Zach, I'm loving it. Zach said, "Let's go LS who?" Well played, sir. Nice job. Elijah said, "So proud of the Lady Vols for an amazing comeback." Absolutely. Down by 17 and they come all the way back. So Rustin, let me ask you, what do you want to talk about first? Because we got tons of choices.
I'll tell you, it's kind of incredible. We can start with any of them. Every single team today had some pretty notable things happen.
Let's start with the basketball game, Lady Vols basketball. Let's do that.
Go for it.
Free throws. I keep talking about coming back to free throws. Tennessee ended the game what? It was, I think they missed 4 the whole game. They were 24 for 28. I know I'm close.
Yeah, you're right. They were 4 off, 21 for 25.
There we go. Okay. It's hard to lose when you do that, when you shoot that well from the free throw line, quite honestly. But my goodness, tale of two halves.
Which also means in their last 2 games, they're 43 for 51.
I mean, that's awesome. It is hard to lose when you're shooting that well. What were your immediate takeaways from that win?
Well, I told Evan earlier tonight, and this may sound crazy when I say it, but those of you who watched the Lady Vols when the Lady Vols dominated college basketball, I felt like tonight was the first time since Coach Summit moved away from coaching that we looked like the Lady Vols of old. Those teams played hard-nosed defense. They were crazy tough. Nobody wanted anything to do with them because they were just gonna guard you all over the floor and make you miserable. But the other thing they all had in common, Pat Summit was a phenomenal recruiter, and in late game situations, she would just run quick hitter after quick hitter after quick hitter for her best players to continue to get the ball. And she would say, "Hey, big players make plays in big games." And I felt like watching Coach Harper today, I was watching Pat Summit all over again. She got those girls to believe that they could fight back into that game down 17. Andrea Carter at halftime is trashing the Lady Vols, in their effort and their turnovers and just raking them over the coals. And for them to come out and play the way they did in the second half, just incredible. And just finding ways to score. They willed the win. One notable thing that happened tonight, they talked about it at the end of the game, but I don't think they made big enough deal about it, because when you think about the talent that the Lady Vols have had over the years, tonight, Rakia Jackson and Jordan Horston both got double doubles. That is the first time in the history of the University of Tennessee in the SEC tournament. When you think about all the players that were on the Lady Vol rosters over the years, there were a lot of big time players who you would think that would have happened by now. So for the two of them to pull that off tonight is just an enormous accomplishment.
That's a fantastic stat. That was a really good stat. I noticed one of them. I think I saw something. The SEC Network tweeted out something about Rakia, and it said that she's now scored 20 plus
8 straight games.
8 straight games. Yep, she's the first player in the last 20 seasons at Tennessee to do that. I wonder who the other one. It's got to be Shamika Holtzclaw or maybe Tamika Catchings. One of the two of them. I can't remember.
In how many years?
20. So like 2003, 2002. Maybe so. Yeah. That'd be fun to look up who that was that did it before her. But I mean, that's an incredible stat. I mean, Zach, he made absolutely. This is a story of the night. They're down by 17 at one point, and they come all the way back against the number 2 team in the country who had only lost one game. That's phenomenal. I mean, that is absolutely phenomenal.
And kudos to the ref with a minute left. That offensive foul call with a minute left was a huge call, and it was a gutsy call, but it was the right call.
Oh yeah, I mean, she just cleared her out, no doubt about it.
And in a year when SEC officials, and we've seen it all day today, men's and women's, are just the worst in the country. I mean, it's not comparable. They are hands down the worst officiating crew in the country. And
it just means more. SEC.
So in a year when they are easily the worst officials in America, for her to make that call in that moment, it was crazy impressive. And Kim Mulkey lost her mind, but when they watched the replay back, it was absolutely an offensive foul. That was a heck of a call.
I mean, she was just clearing her out. I mean, it was blatantly. And from the angle from the camera on the side of the court in real time, it didn't look like, an offensive foul. And so when they said that, I was like, wait, what? But then you see the other angle that the referee had on the play, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, absolutely, she called an offensive foul. Zach said he loved Kim's face when that happened. Elijah says it's a fantastic call, and John said, yeah, they got that one right. I totally agree. I mean, she just used her whole left forearm to clear out. I mean,
it might have been the only one they got right all day. I never cease to be amazed. I tweet this on a weekly basis. It doesn't matter who I'm watching. If it's an SEC game, there's going to be at least 5 just mind-boggling calls at some point during the game where sometimes if it's Pat Adams, he just makes stuff up. Like he'll just invent a rule. It's unbelievable to watch.
I think we need to take note of Zach's profile photo now. That is amazing. It's the Kramer from the episode where they painted Kramer in Seinfeld, and they called it the Kramer. That is amazing. What was it that they said about it? He's a loathsome brute, but I can't even remember what all they said. But and then he goes, "But I love him." That is fantastic. That is an excellent profile photo right there. I love it.
I thought the other thing that really stood out about the Lady Vols, and Andrea kind of brought it up in the post game because she ripped them at halftime. They had 13 turnovers at halftime. They only had 4 in the second half.
That's a big difference. Yeah. It's hard to win when you make 20. If they had kept that pace up for a total of 26 in the game, you can't win when you have 26 turnovers in a game. And so the fact that they cut that down, I mean, that's the difference in the world. That and their defense, man.
Especially as rough as the refs let the second half get. I mean, there were possessions during the second half where they were just letting them kill each other. And, to not turn the ball over and all that chaos, that's a big deal.
So now the Lady Vols basketball team plays South Carolina tomorrow afternoon at 3:00. And kudos to the women's tournament is a week before Selection Sunday. I to this day do not understand why the men's tournament has not moved forward at least one day, because we saw it happen last year to Texas A&M and Tennessee. The fact that the championship game was on Sunday, it was blatantly obvious that the selection committee had already made up their mind before they even stepped on the court that day. And so the only thing that mattered that game for was to hold up a trophy at the end of it. That was it. It did not affect NCAA tournament rankings at all, seedings at all. If they move it up to Sunday, that can help whoever, it would have helped Tennessee last year if they move, to Saturday. If they move that championship game up one day, all the other conferences except for the Big Ten, all the rest of them have moved it up. The ACC, like either last year or the year before, they moved it up to Saturday because they saw the benefit of playing that championship game on Saturday. And so the women's tournament, they got a whole week to let that impact the selection committee's decision. So there's no telling, quite honestly, just how much that win tonight helped the Lady Vols in their seeding for the NCAA tournament. Because, let's be honest, they just beat a Final Four team. Like, that's what just happened. LSU will be in the Final Four. They're going to play another Final Four team tomorrow. And so that was a huge boost for them going into the NCAA tournament. And I so wish that the men's tournament would move it up at least one day to make that championship game matter even more. But I guess that's for another episode. Let's see.
It's going to be fascinating to see what this does for their seeding, because, the women's tournament's different than the men's. Seeding really matters in the women's tournament.
Oh, yeah. Home games.
Elijah just said it right there. Right now, bracketology has them as a 5 seed, but because of their strength of schedule, they were teetering on the 4 line. And if this pushes them to the 4 line, that means they get to be a host. And the first 2 rounds are in Knoxville. And that's a big deal.
Absolutely. Not just for, home court advantage, but also brings in money into the university. It's a big deal.
But it's hot. They're peaking at the right time. So to be peaking at the right time and then get to host and play on your home court for the first 2 rounds, that's invaluable.
Yeah, I totally agree with Zach here. He said, I just want to say good job by Jackson and Horston in the post-game interview. Totally agree. So Lady Vols, big win tonight. Play tomorrow. Let's talk about some base Vols. Blake Burke, he is good at hitting baseballs far. He can hit them a far way. And it's so smooth when he does it too. Reminiscent of Ken Griffey Jr. It's just, he's got the smoothest, sweetest swing, man. It's impressive when it's weird when you play a game and don't hit a home run. Like, that's when you're really playing really well right now. He went 3 for 5 on the night, reached base on 4 of his 5 plate appearances, was a triple shy of the cycle. It's good. That's a good game, guys. That's a good game. You know what? So Elijah said, Burt going to lead Division I in home runs this season, calling out. I think that's I'd take that bet for sure. It's bizarre that it seems like every single game it's almost like Kiki Malloy for the softball team. Blake Burke's doing the same thing for the baseball team.
Yeah. He's now got 8 home runs in 12 games, but I think what's even more impressive to me, he's hitting .471. Like, he's not just getting up there hitting home runs. The dude is hitting everything.
Yep.
And he's doing it on a nightly basis. And I sit there and wonder sometimes, why are they still pitching to him?
Yeah, exactly.
There's been moments in the last 4 or 5 games when they could have intentionally walked him or just thrown him nothing but curveballs and let him, see if he wants to get himself out. But they're throwing him fastballs. And I'm like, what part of the scouting report said this was a good idea?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to watch.
And let's be quite clear. They're playing Gonzaga right now. And I know that, when you're watching the game up in the corner of the screen, it says Gonzaga. Like today it said 1-8. But let's be really clear. Coming into this series, Gonzaga was 1-7, but they easily, like we talked about in a previous episode, they had played one of the toughest schedules, if not the toughest schedule in America up until this point.
Yeah.
But Gonzaga is the defending WCC, the West Coast Conference champions. They're the defending champs.
Yeah.
They routinely make it to the postseason on a yearly basis. They were picked by the media to be the preseason champs. They were picked preseason champs for the West Coast Conference again this year. That's a really good baseball team. Yeah. You've seen that in the two starting pitchers in the past 2 days. Those dudes were dealing, man. It just so happened that in each game, Tennessee had one good inning, and that was the difference. This is a really good team that they're playing right now, and they're beating them.
Yeah, they went 37-19 last year, but if you look back at their schedule, the front half of their schedule played out just like this. They were struggling on a nightly basis to get wins, but then they got in the conference schedule and they just ran roughshod over the conference. It'll be the same thing this year. They'll probably finish with somewhere between 35-ish wins, and they'll win the conference again.
Coming into the series against Tennessee, so at that point they were 1-7, and through their first 8 games, they hit more home runs this year in those first 8 games than they did their first 8 games of last season, the team that won their conference last season. So I mean, they're hitting the ball really well, and then you hit the buzzsaw of Tennessee's pitching staff. That was probably my biggest takeaway from tonight. It was certainly a pitcher's duel for the first 6-7 innings of the game. But the whole game lasted less than 2.5 hours. A 9-inning baseball game. I think the official time was like 2 hours and 26 minutes, something like that. I mean, that's fast. It makes you wonder how much that new pitch clock rule is changing that. And as a hitter, even, I've noticed it with a couple people. So Christian Moore loves to take his time when he gets into the box. If you go back and watch last year to this year, he has a routine every time he steps in the box, and that routine, he's not being allowed to do that anymore. I wonder if this new pitch clock rule is impacting the hitters every bit as much as it's impacting the pitchers. You saw it happen in, I think it was Blake Burke's second at bat, game 1 of this series. He stepped in the box, and by the time he even looked up at the pitcher, the guy was already in his motion coming toward, starting his windup coming after him. And Blake just kind of stopped and looked back at the umpire like, you going to let him do that? Well, yeah, he's going to let him do that. I mean, it's messing with hitters because pitchers know they have 10 seconds. I mean, and I wonder if that's speeding up the game, but surely, it's not speeding up that much. I think tonight it was just the fact that it was such a pitcher's duel. John made a good point here. He said there were so many strikeouts. Absolutely.
Yeah,
both pitchers were dealing.
They had 11 again tonight.
Zach said, he was on chat earlier, people are saying Louisville or TCU going to win it all. I'd say that's 2 pretty good bets to be in the College World Series, but man, once you get to the College World Series, anything can happen. So it's hard to say who will win it all. I mean, I would personally say if you're basing it off pitching, I'd go Tennessee because they got pitching for days. It's that pitch clock. It's fascinating the impact it's having on the game. It's certainly making it different. That's a good way of saying it. Whether it's making them uncomfortable or not, I don't think we'll ever know because they won't admit that. But it's making it different, and I think it's going to take several series just to get adjusted to it. And then you got to wonder: is every home plate umpire going to enforce it the same way as the previous one? It's interesting. Another change in the rules this year that we saw this series, I think it was last night's game. You can only, it was because Dolander was pitching. You can only step off the rubber without making a throw to a base one time during an at bat. That's it. So like last night, Dolander wasn't comfortable with, probably because he was being blown off the mound by the wind, and so he took a step off the rubber and didn't throw to first because there was a runner on first at the time, and the umpire immediately came out, looked at both benches, and said, "All right, that's the one," like that, making sure everybody knew you can't step off the rubber again without throwing. That's interesting to me. Like that totally changes one of the main things in baseball. So very interesting. Zach said he'll pick Tennessee over anyone. He said, but he only sees orange. What other thoughts from the baseball game today, Rustin, that you noticed?
Just the pitching dominance. I mean, we went from Chase Burns to Kirby Cannell to Seth Halverson, who walked in and just mowed them down. He probably had the pitch of the day. He threw a slider to one poor guy from Gonzaga, and the dude looked like he'd never swung a bat in his life. It was unbelievable. He just kind of, his knees buckled, and he just kind of flipped the bat out over the plate. Looked just awful. And it was that good of a pitch. The thing just exploded away on him, and the guy looked just terrible. It was interesting that they brought Halverson in that role, though. I almost wonder if they're grooming him to be the closer.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And the other question I have is, what's going on with Camden Sewell? Why have we not seen him yet? I haven't seen him listed on any injury report. Coming into the season, I thought he was going to be the closer, and we haven't seen him. So
that's a very good question.
I'm real curious to hear what's going on with him. But if the fact that Halverson came in and closed it out the way that he did, I think he was almost making a case that he's going to be the closer.
John just had a good question. Maui Ahuna going to have to hit better and probably will. Totally agree. I mean, I know this is his, his fourth game now since being cleared.
Yeah.
And so, he had a couple base hits yesterday, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Did not have a good day at the plate today. Had an excellent, play in the field, and the ball ricocheted off of who was in at the time. I think it was Chase
Halverson.
Burns was still. Was it
no,
Halverson?
It was Halverson.
All right. So when ball ricocheted off Halverson, Ahuna came in, made a beautiful play across the middle of the field, got the guy out at first. But yeah, I mean they need him. They need his bat to be a threat at the 6 hole, because after him, Kyle Booker had a great game tonight at the plate. But man, it drops a lot in the 8 and 9 holes. And so they need Maui to be a threat in that spot. Because if after you get past Griffin Merritt at the 5 hole, and you've got Kyle Booker, who he's ever since Kyle Booker's been at Tennessee, he's been coming in as a pinch hitter the last 2 seasons. He's always a threat at the plate. Like, he is a great hitter. And so if you only have one guy in the last 4 guys in your order that's consistently getting on base, getting base hits, that's not good. So they gotta have Maui really step it up at the plate. And I agree with John. Hopefully he will. I think he probably will. Let's hope that happens sooner rather than later, so that by the time they get to conference play, he's really, feeling it.
It's going to be interesting to see who wins. I mean, the 8 hole is going to be Charlie Taylor. That's just a given. When Cal Stark catches, he'll hit 8 hole. Vitello likes to put an extra leadoff man in the 9 spot. So he's toyed with Logan Chambers. He's toyed with Christian Scott. I think we'll probably see Dylan Dreiling get a little more of an opportunity there. Jake Kendrow could be an option. But then tonight we also saw Reese Chapman get an early pinch hit. So they've got options in that 9 spot. and if they want to, they can put Griffin Merritt in the outfield and make that 9 spot a DH. So I think we're going to continue to see a lot of guys get opportunities in that spot until they decide on who is the guy. But I mean, nobody around that program has any concerns about Maui. I mean, the dude hit over 400 last year and played for Team USA. He's probably going to be the first shortstop taken in the major league draft. He just needs some time. He's just got to get acclimated. He's got to get his timing down. He's the kind of guy in about a week after seeing, multiple games straight of live pitching, he's all of a sudden a light bulb's going to come on. He's going to lock in, and we're going to see him go on a tear where he's going to hit 600 or 700 for about 2 weeks. And everybody's going to go, oh, that's the guy we've been waiting on, because he's done it his whole career. I mean, he's potentially the best college shortstop in America. So he's not a concern.
He had a base hit in his first 3 games. I think he went 1 for 3 or something in all those games. Tonight, like I said, tonight was a struggle for him. But I mean, it happens every once in a while. But hopefully he gets more consistent. John said we need Gonzaga's catcher's arm. Yeah, that was not a good look for Blake Burke when Blake got thrown out stealing on a ball that was in the dirt that the guy dropped to a knee to get, stood up and still threw Blake out at second. That was not a good look for Blake. It's a good thing, next time up at the plate, he just went ahead and hit it out of the park. That was a good job there by Blake.
I do think, though, so John finished that by saying we haven't had one for a while. We actually do have a really good catcher right now. Charlie Taylor is an excellent defensive catcher. The problem is everybody steals bases on our pitchers. Frank Anderson does not believe that holding runners is important. He never has in his entire career. He has never coached pitchers to care about that. He's more concerned with the guy at the plate. And his perspective is if we throw great pitches and get outs, it doesn't matter how much they run around us. And so if you watch, almost every stolen base somebody gets on Tennessee is on
high
the pitcher.
leg kick.
The
high
catcher
leg kick.
Yeah, the catchers don't have a chance. Charlie Taylor, I actually saw most of Charlie's high school career. Charlie was the catcher at a school in the same region as the school that I used to run. And so I saw Charlie play almost his entire high school career. And coming out of high school, Charlie was the top rated catcher in the state of Georgia. Charlie has a fantastic arm, but it doesn't matter if the base runner's halfway to second before you catch the ball. So, if that ever changes and we decide to slide step every once in a while, you'll see Charlie start mowing people down. But until we start actually caring about base runners, our catchers are never going to look good.
I noticed, last night Dolanders had a high leg kick. Nobody has a higher leg kick than Chase Burns. Nobody.
He's a stolen base waiting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, and if you'll recall, last year in the Super Regional, they were taking advantage of that. They were even commenting on it. The announcers were commenting on it. Like, they've scouted him. They know that this is something that he does. They're going to try to take advantage of it, and they did.
Drew Beam has a very deliberate delivery too. It's easy to steal bases on him, but again, it's because they're taught that's the priority. We don't care about base runners.
I agree with you, John. I would like to see a slide step. That would be nice.
So would Charlie Taylor.
Yeah, for real. Zach said, I always like a leadoff hitter in the 9 hole and then another one, the leadoff. Absolutely. That way you get power in the 9 and 1. Absolutely. He said, Burke's good at a lot of things, but he's not a base stealer. That is accurate. We saw that firsthand tonight. Absolutely. What about, I don't want to end on a downer with the men's basketball team. So let's talk about them now.
And then go back to softball.
Yeah, and then go back to Lady Vol softball. That way we end on a high note.
Yeah.
The basketball team today, playing at Auburn. This is now the 4th consecutive road loss against Auburn for the Vols. Oh man, so I saw Ricky Allison, who was our correspondent at the Battle for Atlantis down there. I saw him when I was getting takeout from Fulin Cuisine tonight. Shout out to Fulin, not a sponsor. They can be
No
if they
free
want.
shout outs.
But man, that's some good Chinese food right there. Good Asian food. And so saw Ricky there with his family, and I mean, he just, he and I both said the same thing. It's what we expected to happen, which is sad, and I think John makes some good points here. He said, well, Auburn was at home. Auburn had to win to make it to the tournament, and it was senior day. Totally agree. Totally agree. And they did. I mean, they played. Tennessee played well. I mean, to have Jemai Mashak in such foul trouble the whole game long. Tennessee played well. Santi was feeling it, man. Like he was feeling it. It just came up short, You miss, Euros not great from the foul line. There's 2 points right there. And when it's just a couple possession game late, every free throw matters throughout the entire game. Elijah said our free throws were outrageous. Yep. Zach said they were terrible tonight. Enough said. What about softball? Elijah said Zach, they weren't bad. Just showed how much we're going to miss Zakai without a true point guard. Yeah, that's true. We're gonna miss him bad come tournament time. And he's just such a likable guy. I mean, even during that, when he was at the scores table with the announcers to start the second half, you could tell they just love him. Jimmy Dykes. Zakai is one of Jimmy Dykes' favorite people in the whole world. You can tell. Let's see. Zach said, I hate losing to Auburn. They were so cocky all game. Yeah, that's true. They were the dude blowing kisses to the crowd after he made a shot. Yeah.
It's just a Bruce team.
Yeah.
If people will remember when Bruce was in Knoxville, the Vols acted the same way. Like that's just who he is.
Got a comment from Vol Bro Uncle. This might be our Uncle Dave, I guess. That's what I'm talking about. If it is, if so, I can't tell by the photo, but
I don't know.
If so, hey, welcome, Vol Bro Uncle. That's exciting. He said Auburn's gelling at the right time, nearly knocking off Bama, getting revenge of the Vols today. That may be a tough out during the tournament. Totally agree. You don't want to see a team that can hit outside shots and have a point guard that is so consistent from the free throw line. I mean, kudos to that kid, man. Green is a Wendell Green.
Yeah, Wendell Green.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't miss from the free throw line. Elijah said, that's pretty good. Oh, that's pretty funny.
You got to read it. If somebody's listening online, they have no idea.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. So for anybody, that's a great point. Thank you, Rustin. You're exactly right. So we have so many people who listen to the audio version of this podcast, and I don't want to take anything away from them. Elijah said, I hate their point guard with a burning passion. That's pretty funny. Elijah said, all he does is flop. Yeah. People say that about Santi too. And it is Uncle Dave. How about that? That's what I'm talking about. Welcome, Uncle Dave. That's awesome.
I thought our guards actually played really well. I think we lost the game in 2 areas, and one was not the free throw line. Could we shoot free throws better? Sure. But the guys who are missing them, Urosh, I've never been 7 feet tall, but I've coached a 6'11" kid, and I know how hard it is for a kid with really, really long arms to slow their shot down to take free throws. It's hard on them. So Urosh is not going to be a good free throw shooter because he's just so stinking big. Same reason Shaquille O'Neal could never be a great free throw shooter. Tobey, to his credit, has started figuring out how to control his shot. He's looking better at the free throw line. But free throws didn't lose the game. If you look at the stats, free throws canceled out. It was pretty much equal. Guard play didn't lose the game. If you look at the stats, we actually won the guard battle. We were better at guard than they were. We lost the game inside because Urosh, Olivier Kamwa, Tobe Awaka, and Jonas Adu, all four of them combined for 14 points and 17 rebounds. Now, here's where that gets more problematic. Awaka had 10 of the 17. So,
yeah.
And he had 1 point. So that means Jonas Adu, Olivier Kamwa, and Urosh Plavsic combined for 13 points and 7 rebounds. That's where we lost the game.
That hurts. That hurts.
We got killed inside.
Yeah, even Jimmy Dykes was commenting on. It seemed like when Awaka was in the game, he was getting every single rebound on that end of both ends of the court. I mean, it was wild.
Yeah, he finished with 10 in 18 minutes. Problem is, it was so physical, he couldn't really do anything with it. When he was getting rebounds, he was kicking it back out to other guys because the paint was such a war. And again, SEC refs. I literally watch an SEC basketball game, and it doesn't matter. I'm not just talking about Tennessee. It doesn't matter who it is. By the end of the game, I have no earthly idea what a foul is anymore. Like it changes every possession. It changes every half. Blocks and charges change every possession. Like it's a coin toss every time down the floor. And then they'll have these moments like they did in today's game where they just decide not to call anything and they just let them kill each other. It is so infuriating to watch. And I don't understand why the SEC continues to allow it to happen every single year. And this is how we know it happens every single year. When March Madness starts, if you're listening, just have fun with this and just pay attention to it. When March Madness starts, see how many SEC refs you see calling games. There will be next to none.
That's a good point. That would be interesting to see.
And it's because
Pat Adams will get out there somewhere.
Well, so if his ranking is good enough, so they rank them, they grade them all year long, and then the refs who are above a certain grade get to go call the NCAA tournament. But if you watch, rarely ever will you see an SEC official calling the postseason. And it's because none of them grade high enough to get in.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Zach said that Wendell Green is so cocky he should play for South Carolina. Well played, sir, on the pun there. That was nice. Elijah said turnovers and transition D killed us. Too many points off turnovers for Auburn. That's what lost us the game, in my opinion. Zach said Toby was a beast tonight. Totally agree. He was. Absolutely. He's a force, man. He got out there. Zach also gave a shout out to our uncle. Welcoming our uncle. That's what I'm talking about.
So Elijah's right on that. The point differential was the points off turnovers. We had 11 turnovers. Auburn had 6. And if you look at the points off turnovers, the difference was about 8. So that was the point difference in the game. But I still point to, so that is a true statement. But I still point to, we've got to have more than 13 points and 6 rebounds from Jonas Adu, Olivier Kamwa, and Urosh Plavsic. We're not going to play very long if we don't get more than that from them.
Zach, he said, just FYI, as soon as you started talking about men's basketball, the views went down. He's right. It did drop by like 3 people. Thankfully, it's back up now. 3 people, I guess, that came back. He said it's too painful to talk about. That's why.
Power outage.
That's right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put, if you would like to join us on screen, I'm going to put that joining link in the comments now on Facebook and YouTube.
To talk about softball?
Well, so that's why I'm doing it now, because as we as we always, as we are wrapping up here talking about softball, you can join us while we're talking, and you'll be backstage. And then when we're done talking about softball, I can bring you on the screen. Just remember, it's a family show. I know we just talked about basketball, and people get upset about that, but if you want to join us, you can. And like I said, you can join while we're talking about softball, and then um, you know, as soon as we're done talking about softball, we'll bring anybody who wants to come on the screen with us on the screen. So Lady Vols softball, 2-0 today. Did they even allow a run in either game? I don't think
No,
they did.
no.
I mean, that's pretty good. 9-0 and 8-0, I think, were the scores
Yep.
for each one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they had two different pitchers pitch. Ashley Rogers did not step on the mound, or they don't have a mound, step in the circle today. So that's impressive that they did that with their second and third pitchers.
Yeah. So that was a couple of things I was going to point out, because this is, I mean, honestly, we talk about Tennessee's baseball pitching staff, but Tennessee's softball pitching staff might be in the top 2 or 3 in the country also. Peyton Gottschall is essentially the number 2 pitcher. It's not really the same as baseball. There's not like a rotation, but Peyton Gottschall is essentially the number 2 pitcher. She's 4-0. She won the nightcap tonight. She beat Jacksonville State 9-0. Carlin Pickens is technically the number 3 pitcher. She's got the only loss. She's 3-1, but she's the one who threw the perfect game against Appy State this morning. But Ashley Rogers, this is a pretty incredible stat. Ashley Rogers is 4-0. In those 4 games, she's thrown 27 innings. She has 43 strikeouts in 27 innings.
Good grief.
Yeah.
So 27 times 3 is 81.
Mm-hmm. So she's recorded over half of the outs herself.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
So Ashley went to high school, or pitched for Meigs County High School.
Yep.
And so that's near where we live. And so I got to see her pitch in the state tournament, her junior and her senior year, I believe. And she was dominant. I mean, even then, she was just absolutely dominant. And actually, Ralph and Karen Weekly were at one of the games in the high school state championship game that Ashley pitched in. And so she is very impressive. And my goodness, Tennessee's Lady Vols softball team, they've only lost 1 game on the season now. Yep. They're tearing it up.
So we talked about Blake Burke. We also need to bring up Kiki Malloy.
Absolutely.
So the Lady Vols are 14-1. So for the baseball team, they're 10-2. So in 12 games, Blake Burke has 8 home runs and he's hitting .471. For the Lady Vols, they're 14-1. So in 15 games, Kiki Malloy now has 9 home runs and is hitting .523.
I'm given to understand that is good.
Yeah, that's pretty much unheard of.
It's crazy, man. They might have the best hitter in the country on the softball team and the baseball team.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild. When has that ever happened? Ever? I mean,
9 home runs and .523 in 15 games.
Like I said earlier with Blake, it feels weird when he doesn't hit a home run now in a game.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for Kiki. Like, if she doesn't hit one, it seems weird that she didn't hit one that game.
The 3-run bomb that Blake hit tonight against Gonzaga, I called it. When he stepped in the box, I looked at my son and I said, it was a runners on first and second. Zane Denton was hitting right behind him. They didn't have a left-hander ready in the bullpen, so they had to throw to him. And I told my son, if he gets a fastball in the inner half, this is going to be a 3-run bomb. Pitch number 3, fastball inner half, and that thing left in a hurry.
Yeah, it did. But so his bomb and Kyle Booker's bomb, both of them, they were just straight line drives, man. I mean, it was
Yeah.
incredible.
Griffin
I mean,
Merritt's home run was a shot. He hit that thing off the top
yeah,
of the batter's eye in center
yeah,
field. That is a long way.
yeah. Well, but like, so Kyle Booker, he hit it to the right center. Where he hit it, the fence is 365, but there's trees right
Yeah.
behind across the street back there. And when they showed it from behind, it looked like the ball never even got above the trees. It was just a line drive straight out of the park. He killed it
So
for him.
so a lot of people don't know this about Lindsey Nelson. If you ever get to watch a game that if you ever get to watch a game that somebody like Chris Burke or somebody like that calls, somebody who's actually played in Lindsey Nelson, they'll typically bring this up. Um, I got to play in Lindsey Nelson once in college, and we learned this by being on the field. Right center is almost like a wind tunnel. So if you can hit any ball into the right center field gap, it has a really high probability of just carrying over the fence. It's something about the way the wind comes off the Tennessee River, and it's not that way anywhere else in the stadium. But right center field, there's this weird wind tunnel, and if you get a ball into it, it's gone. It will just keep
Hmm.
going, and sometimes you don't even have to hit it that hard. If you can just get it in that tunnel, it just takes off. It's really bizarre.
Elijah said, very off topic, but Tennessee Tech just scored a crazy buzzer beater to send them to the OVC championship game in overtime. Man, March Madness is awesome. It's like the best time of year. So Zach, we got Zach joining us now. That's what I'm talking about. Zach, as always, buddy, welcome to the show. Zach, I got my main question for you is, well, oh, I like the hat too, dude. My main question for you is, what was your favorite part of all the Tennessee games that we talked about today? What was your favorite moment of the day?
And it has to be the women's basketball team coming back from 17 down. I
I
mean,
totally agree.
the baseball team, you kind of expect that, at least for now. I mean, see what happens in SEC play, but at least for now, you just kind of expect to see what they are doing in the softball team. You kind of expect it from them. So I'm not really surprised to see what they are doing. But the way the women's basketball team did what they did and guess who they did? I know I make fun of LSU because it's fun to make fun of LSU. Let's get that real. I mean, LSU just, I mean, from football to basketball to softball, it's just fun to make fun of them. But they are really good women's basketball team.
Absolutely.
So the way they came back and won, and then just to see all these stunned faces on LSU sideline, it was amazing.
I totally agree, man. I mean, you're exactly right. It's one thing to come back from 17 down in any game, but to come back from 17 down against one of the top four teams in the country in LSU, I mean, my goodness, they were 28-1 on the season coming into today. I think it was. I mean, just an incredible basketball team, and they came back and just took it to them in the second half. Hey, Zach, let me get your opinion on this. So we were talking about Blake Burke and Kiki Malloy.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like do you think the same thing? Do you think it's weird now if one of them doesn't hit a home run in their game? Is it almost to the point now where we just expect them to do that?
I mean, yeah, you just expect it from those um like Bulk and Kiki Malloy because it's their job to hit a home run when they come up to bat. They're like, okay, Kiki Malloy's come up, okay, a home run's come up right after all, and Bulk is he's coming up, so we might as well just expect a home run. But it's like I said, I mean, yeah, these are good teams, but once you get later on, I know Russ said a couple episodes ago we have Lipscomb coming up pretty soon.
March
Yep.
14th.
That's going to be a test. Can
Mm-hmm.
Bulk hit a home run against a Cowboy team like that? So that's what I'm looking forward to. If
Absolutely.
if he can do that, then sky's the limit for him this season.
Absolutely. Well, Zach, hey man, we appreciate you joining us as always. You're the man. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you stick around for the rest of the show here.
Yep, anytime.
Thank you, buddy. Well, tomorrow, 3:00 p.m., the Lady Vols play South Carolina. Obviously, okay, is this the biggest game of Kelly Harper's coaching career at Tennessee up to this point? Yeah or nay? What do you think?
I think she just coached it.
Well, that's fair.
I don't think anybody is walking into the game tomorrow expecting Tennessee to win. I don't think anybody's expecting them to even compete.
That's why I agree with you right there.
Now, if they come out there and they find a way to rebound, because that's the issue. South Carolina is just so much bigger than everybody else. And if they can find a way to rebound and they can find a way to eliminate second chance points and they take care of the ball, and even if just going into the fourth quarter, it's just close, and South Carolina has a little bit of fear about them, that will go a long way. But tonight was a program changing night.
I agree.
mean, this it's like I said earlier, this was the first time I've watched a Lady Vol basketball team in a very long time and said, this is what it looked like with Pat Summitt. This is what it should look like. I was just reading, I was just looking at some things from post game, and Kelly Harper did an interview after the game, and she was asked the question what she said to her team when they were down 17. And they said, you looked very calm in the huddle. We expected you would be a little more upset. And she said, I just looked at them and asked, what do you all want? What do you want to happen from here? And she said, I put it on them and just let them answer the question and decide what they wanted. That is so reminiscent of Pat Summitt. Pat Summitt always seemed to know when she needed to be fiery, when she needed to get in somebody's face and really scream and holler, and when to just talk. And she was masterful at that. That's why she won at such a high level. She could motivate like no other. And I feel like we're watching Kelly kind of come into that. And I'm really curious to see how tomorrow goes and how they respond. It's going to be hard. Tonight was a gutty, physical, emotional win. It's hard to go back to the hotel and calm down and go to sleep and get good rest and then wake up tomorrow and come out and play the undefeated #1 team in America. That's asking a lot. But tonight alone was a program changer.
I totally agree. Zach said this is like ultimate coach speak right here. I love it. The next game is always absolutely, no matter who you play.
Well, that's Kelly would disagree with you because they asked her in the post-game press conference about it. It was kind of funny, actually, if any of you saw it on SEC Network. She was
almost like Go ahead.
They asked her what's going to happen tomorrow, and she looked at the lady and said, too soon, and ignored the question.
Yeah, and then Drea Carter ended up asking her, what can you take from today and apply to tomorrow? And she just said, rebound. We got to rebound. And you could just tell by her body language, she's like, she doesn't think they're going to win tomorrow. And that was kind of concerning.
But honestly, she doesn't care because it's not, they shouldn't beat South Carolina. No one should. There's nobody in the country that's been able to play with them yet. And they've played pretty much everybody.
Well, here's the thing. As far as like, is this the biggest game for Kelly Harper? I think as far as like the pedigree of this game, the podium that this game is, potentially winning the SEC tournament. Yeah, that's probably the biggest game she's been in. But like you said, nobody expects her to win. And so people today thought she might have a chance. And then they end up winning.
Now, I will say this. Next year, when Aaliyah Boston's gone, we actually match up with South Carolina really well. Right now, she's the problem. We don't have anybody that matches up with her because of the way we have to match up with everybody else on their roster. But you take her off the court, and next year we actually match up pretty well with them. And I could easily see us giving them a run next year. But this year she's the X factor. We just don't have anybody that can handle her. And if we change up our defensive assignments to make sure she's taken care of, then the 6'7" girl goes off and has a double. And I mean, you're just picking your poison.
Yep. It's gonna be a tough outing, but like I say, hopefully it's they can at least keep it close. Hopefully they win, but hopefully they can at least keep it close and be respectable. And I mean, who knows? Hey, the college football playoff committee, they said quality losses are more important. So, if this is a close game in the fourth quarter, then that's a good quality loss.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Maybe that bumps them up into a 3 seed. Who knows?
The only team that's played them relatively close is Connecticut. And Gino did something really interesting, and I almost wonder if Kelly might try it tomorrow. If any of you saw that game when South Carolina played Connecticut, Connecticut did not guard South Carolina's point guard. They just didn't guard her. They took the girl who would have guarded her and put her in the middle of the lane and basically played a one-man zone. And if anybody drove to the basket, she would immediately go double team. And they literally just said, if South Carolina's point guard wants to shoot, we're going to let her shoot as much as she wants to shoot. So it'll be interesting to see. And we learned that Gino was right. South Carolina's point guard can't shoot. Every time she did, it was basically a turnover. So it'll be interesting to see if Kelly tries to employ that some tomorrow and tells Jordan Walker, hey, don't guard that girl. Just come down here and help us on the big girls.
Well, huge day tomorrow again. I mean, you got Lady Vols play at noon. Excuse me, the softball team. I need to clarify. The Lady Vols softball team plays at noon against, I think, Jacksonville State again.
Yeah, it is.
Swim and dive. They're swimming tomorrow and diving tomorrow. Men's golf is playing at Arkansas tomorrow. That's another big one. Women's tennis is tomorrow at 1:00, and also against Arkansas, but in Knoxville. So if you're in Knoxville, you can catch the Lady Vol softball team playing at noon, and then the women's tennis team playing at 1:00. And then run over to Lindsey Nelson also at 1:00. You catch the first half of women's, second half of men's. I guess I don't know.
Softball's actually got a double header tomorrow. They've got Jacksonville State at noon, and then they play Belmont again at 5:00.
Oh wow! So you'll see Ashley Rogers tomorrow. She'll pitch one of those two. And so then baseball plays their series finale, looking for the sweep at 1:00 as well. So it's a huge day in Knoxville tomorrow.
Yeah.
Huge day.
Not to mention spend a day on the hill, you could easily fill your time.
Absolutely. And then not to mention, bring along your mobile device and watch the Lady Vol Lady Vol basketball team. There's so many teams I'm talking about. The Lady Vol basketball team that tip off at 3:00 in the SEC tournament championship game. So just a huge day up in Knoxville tomorrow. Let's see. Kelly's just keeping her cards close to the vest. And then Zach said it's going to be 2 W's for the softball team tomorrow. 2 W's. And I agree. I think it'll be 2 W's as well. I absolutely agree. Kiki Malloy, I'm sure we'll be talking about her hitting another home run after tomorrow. Blake Burke, I don't know. Maybe they won't pitch to him this time. You think somebody eventually is going to be like, maybe we shouldn't throw the ball near where he can swing the bat and hit it, because he's really good at hitting it hard with the bat.
Definitely not anything straight. The fact that he still sees fastballs just blows my mind.
Yep, that's right. I don't know about Gonzaga's pitching staff. I don't know about them. I would venture to guess that whoever they throw tomorrow is not going to be as good as the 2 guys they've thrown so far. The 2 guys that throw
Drew Beam.
Or Drew Beam. Yeah, that's also fair. The two guys they've thrown so far have just been fantastic. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
they're fantastic.
Yeah, the dude that threw Friday night was really impressive.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, hey, we appreciate everybody joining us tonight. This has been a fun one. Tell your buddies, text a buddy about the Vol Bros, man. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already subscribed, man, we'd love it if you did that. We're so close. And we look forward to seeing everybody soon. I'm not sure when we'll go live again next, but we'll probably go live sometime middle of the week. So that's what we typically do. So we'll talk about that and we'll figure it out and let you know. But we appreciate everybody so much for joining us. This has been fun. We love talking to everybody about this. So hope everybody has a great evening. Hope you have a wonderful Sunday. Go Vols. Big day tomorrow. So go Vols.